fiscal crisis for the federal government, as well as the state, it is important to devise ways to ensure that its implementation does not lead to an increase in the level of borrowing. I am accordingly setting up a high-powered technical committee to advise on ways of funding an increase in the minimum wage and the attendant wage adjustments without having to resort to additional borrowings. The work of this technical committee will be the basis of a finance bill which will be submitted to the National Assembly alongside the minimum wage bill. In addition, the technical committee will recommend modalities for the implementation of the new minimum wage in such a manner as to maximize its inflationary impact, as well as ensure that its introduction does not lead to job losses. We have allocated 2.28 trillion naira for capital spending, inclusive of capital in statutory transfers. For comprehensiveness and transparency, the expenditure plans of the larger government-owned enterprises, as well as multilateral and bilateral project-tied loans, have been integrated into 2019 to 2021 medium-term fiscal framework, with the inclusion of 275.88 billion naira, representing capital for the larger government-owned enterprises and 556.02 billion naira for multilateral, bilateral project-tied loans. The aggregate capital budgeted is 3.12 trillion naira. This represents 30% of the total federal government of Nigeria's proposed expenditure budget of 219. In order to get full value for monies expended by the government over time and to avoid duplication and waste, our emphasis will continue to be on completion of existing projects. Accordingly, provisions have been made to carry over projects that are not likely to be fully funded under the 2018 budget to the 2019 capital budget. The allocation to the special intervention projects has been retained as 500 billion naira, consisting of 350 billion naira recurrent and 150 billion naira capital. This reflects our continued determination to pursue inclusive, gender-sensitive, and profitable growth. In addition, to maintain the peace in the Niger Delta, the provision of 65 billion naira for the Presidential Amnesty Program has been retained in the 2019 budget. Similarly, the sum of 45 billion naira has been provided for the Northeast Intervention Fund, as well as the sum of 10 billion naira as take-up grant for the Northeast Development Commission. To further support small and medium-scale enterprises, which are the focus of our industrialization drive, we have set aside the sum of 15 billion naira for the recapitalization of the Bank for Agriculture and Bank of Agriculture and Industry. In addition, the sum of 10 billion naira is provided as a grant to the Bank of Industry for purpose of subsidizing the interest rates charged on loans to small and medium-scale enterprises. This is intended for them to access single-digit interest loans from Bank of Industry. Our vision is for such better prospects for all Nigerians. With careful economic management and continued diversification of our production and revenue base, we will build an inclusive, stable economy for generations to come. In addition to the development of special economic zones, which will underpin our efforts to move forward from a mono economy that's oil-based, we intend to exploit the comparative advantage of 6 geopolitical zones and our 36 states by establishing 6 industrial parks and 109 special production and processing centers across all 109 senatorial zones, including shared facilities. These clusters will have power, water, and broadband facilities with embedded regulatory services. The clusters will generate vibrant economic activity, stimulate small businesses, and create jobs across the length and breadth of Nigeria. A key objective going forward is to further encourage and enable prosperous small businesses. Our micro, small, and medium enterprises will accordingly benefit from improved access to funding, supporting infrastructure, and offtake arrangements by government and larger enterprises. They will leverage the government enterprise and empowerment program and the Anchor Borrowers program. Nigeria cannot afford to be left behind in the digital age. To create jobs for our young people, we will build a digital economy around the technology and creative sectors. In partnership with the states and the private sector, we are working on a project to increase broadband penetration across all geopolitical zones of the country, such that over the next 4 years, all the 774 local governments will be provided with fiber connectivity. Modern, up-to-date infrastructure is particularly important to boost economic activity. We will continue with our emphasis on power, roads, and rail. In addition to completing the Ibadan-Kano rail line, we will also embark and move rapidly to complete the Eastern Rail from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, passing through Aba, which will connect to Abakaliki, Oka, Enugu, Owerri, Umuahia, then through Makadi, Jos, Bauchi, and Gombe. The coastal rail from Calabar to Lagos will also be completed as we aim to build a true national rail network that links all state capitals. Our road projects will gather pace and priority projects under the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, such as the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Expressway, the second Niger Bridge, and the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway will be fast-tracked for early completion. We shall expand generation, transmission, and distribution of power from the national grid while developing innovative off-grid solution for schools